Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which is the sequel to 2018's surprise hit, Venom. This movie once again brings back Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, and it doesn't pick up long after the first movie, where Eddie Brock has been requested to interview an inmate, a prisoner who's about to be executed, Cletus Cassidy, played by Woody Harrelson. For some reason, Cassidy has such a fascination for Eddie Brock that he just grabs Eddie from his cell and bites down on him, but he doesn't taste blood from Eddie. Instead, he tastes venom because the Venom symbiote is still part of Eddie Brock. So eventually Cassidy develops a new symbiote, a red one named Carnage. And you know it's only a matter of time before Venom and Carnage actually fight each other. Oh, and also Cletus Cassidy's trying to reunite with his girlfriend, played by Naomie Harris, and Michelle Williams is back in this movie for no reason outside of another paycheck. Now, the reason I say the first movie was a surprise hit is because I thought that movie was absolutely stupid. I thought it was just so poorly written. It was way too goofy for its own good, despite the fact that there are a lot of moments in the movie where it asks you to take it seriously. It's just terrible all around. It's mostly unintentionally funny and inept in a way. Really, there are a few good things about it. Most of the time, it's because it's unintentionally funny. It's never boring. As weird as Tom Hardy is in this movie, he is giving it his all, and Venom himself looks pretty cool. It's not even among the worst superhero movies made, and it didn't even land in my bottom 10 list for movies of 2018, but really, at the end of the day, there's only one phrase that can describe what this movie is like.
Like a turd in the wind.
And a turd in the wind it was, especially with that mid-credit stinger where you have Woody Harrelson in a $5 Ronald McDonald wig talking about how when he gets out of prison there's going to be carnage. There's no way you can look at that seriously. Like, I saw that mid-credit stinger and thought, this is an SNL skit, right? There's no way this could actually be a legitimate setup for a sequel. And why would there be a sequel? This movie's gonna bomb. Nobody likes it. Unless Marvel Studios is actually making the movie for Sony, Sony has no idea what they're doing with this series, and this is gonna die the same way their plans did for the Amazing Spider-Man series. And it made $856 million worldwide. So when your movie makes that much money, especially on a budget as small as Venom's is, when you compare it to budgets of other comic book movies, you knew a sequel had to come up. So this movie's directed by Andy Serkis, not Ruben Fletcher, who directed the last one and the two Zombieland movies. And I thought it could have the potential to be slightly better. I didn't see his adaptation of Jungle Book on Netflix, but I heard kind of mediocre things. But when we got to this week, I started feeling a little more optimistic about the movie for two reasons. One, the movie has gotten a little more positive reception than the last one, even from people who didn't like the first Venom movie. They came around saying, yeah, this one's pretty fun. And another reason why I was a little more optimistic was because of Zack Snyder. You guys know this. I was not a supporter of the Snyder Cut. I thought that if it were to come out, it would be atrocious, abysmal, and just 4 hours of my time wasted, considering that I hated Batman vs. Superman. But I was proven wrong when the Snyder Cut came out, and enjoyed it quite a bit, so much so that I actually own it on Blu-ray. So that's the true mark of a movie that I actually enjoy. So with those two factors, I thought to myself, okay, I was proven wrong about the Snyder Cut, so maybe I can be proven wrong about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And no, sorry to say, this movie really didn't do it for me. And the thing that really determines on whether you're gonna like this movie or not is this. Venom, Let There Be Carnage pretty much doubles down on everything that I didn't like about the first Venom movie, which apparently some people actually did like. So if you're one of those people who actually liked Venom for weird reasons that I don't like it for, then you'll like this movie. This movie is specifically tailored to fans of the first Venom movie, because I highly doubt it's tailored to fans of the actual source material. When I say that this movie doubles down on everything that the first movie was, I mean everything. If you thought the action scenes in the first movie were terrible, then the action scenes here are just as bad. Ranging from shaky cam, close-up shots, terrible CGI, and quick cutaways to try to keep a PG-13 rating because, you know, Venom is a character that bites heads off and eats people, so we can't show that or else we'll get an R rating, especially when you throw in Carnage, whose host is a serial killer. I think back to that situation in the first movie, but with the elevator. I'm looking at this movie going, make it rated R. And then the movie gets a PG-13 rating and I look at it and go, pussy. And speaking of that first movie, much like how with the final battle between Venom and Riot, you can't tell what's going on, you can't tell what's going on in the fight between Venom and Carnage. And I know Carnage is red, so at least you can try to distinguish the two apart, but you still can't make it out. The lighting doesn't help either, since the lighting doesn't really get to shine on Carnage himself. So again, it's just watching two giant CGI globs fight each other, and you really can't tell what's going on. Now, the humor in the movie, much like with the first one, is just so bizarre, awkward, over-the-top silly, and so off-putting that it makes me so confused. Why are people giving this movie and the first one a pass for its humor, but we criticize movies like Catwoman, Batman and Robin, and the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies for the same type of humor, where it's just silly and goofy? And that's the thing. It's not character humor in this movie, it's set up slapstick. And it's too much. Like, I can appreciate silly fun. We had a great example of a silly and fun comic book movie earlier this year. This is way too silly. Again, going back to the Batman and Robin comparison, it's so silly that it's almost kind of insulting because there's no real stakes with what's going on. It's hard to care for anyone because of its inconsistent tones. It just feels all over the place. Honestly, the funniest moments about the movie are the points where it's unintentionally funny, and that's never a good thing. And that really comes into play with Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy / Carnage. You can tell that Woody Harrelson is having some sort of fun, but there's really no direction for him at all. And most of the time, he is spewing out god-awful dialogue that is pretty much poetry. Like, he's giving Eddie Brock these clues, he's talking all poetic-like, and it's just awful. Like, you can't buy this guy as a real threat. He's just a cartoon. Like, he is an absolute cartoon character. Why should I be scared of him at all? And there is no good hero-villain dynamic at all between these two. Cassidy says that he only wants to talk to Eddie Brock. Why? Well, we never get an answer beyond, because I like you. That's it. He doesn't know that Eddie Brock has a symbiote. He doesn't know much about Eddie Brock in general. Like, it's just so vague that it's really... This movie's gonna break me. I'm gonna continue with the review, but keep that in mind. This movie's gonna break me by the end of it. And then when it comes to Venom and Carnage, I already talked about how terrible the fight was, but there's really no build-up. There are constantly times where Carnage refers to Venom as father, but there's no acknowledgement from Venom that Carnage is his son. He's scared of fighting Carnage at first because it's a red one. Why are the red ones more dangerous? Well, that's a damn good question that the movie does not even bother to answer. There are so many elements in this movie that are introduced and then disappear without any answered questions. These are basic plot details that should be elaborated on, that the movie should give us clarity on, but doesn't bother to. So if the movie didn't really care to elaborate on these plot details, why should I care about the movie in general? Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. Alexander, you went into this with a bad attitude. You may not like the first movie, but it's not fair to this one that you went into it wanting to hate it. And yeah, I admit, I went into this not having much hope for it, but I gave you my two reasons why I was a little more optimistic. And I really wanted to go with it. Trust me, considering how the Snyder Cut surprised me and how this movie has gotten a little more positive reception, not that much, but a little more, I wanted to go in liking this movie, but I didn't. If there's anything about this movie that I can say is at least good or entertaining, it's that Tom Hardy and Venom still work really good together. It's still a really fun and unspoken gay romance between these two characters. There's a scene where Venom goes to a rave. That's a lot of fun. There are some few moments in this movie that honestly did make me chuckle, but nothing I can say made me laugh out loud. And the stinger's cool. Like, the stinger seems to be the one thing that everyone is agreeing on, whether you love the movie or hate it. I think everyone's agreeing that that stinger is pretty awesome. But really, at the end of the day, I really do believe that this movie is awful. I think it's worse than the first movie because it doubles down on everything that I didn't like. But I thought to myself, you know what, there's some good things in it, so I'm gonna say don't waste your money. But that was the rating I was planning to give the movie as I was leaving the theater, because I've had time to think about this. I slept on this movie and thought to myself, you know what, this movie fuels me with frustration and anger the same way that Michael Bay's Transformers do, where they learned nothing from the previous movie. The second time around, they should have improved on the things that people didn't like about that first movie, because that first movie, there are people who like it, sure, but they are in the minority of it. And even then, most of the people that do like it because it's just so bad it's good, which I can get on board with that. But this second time around, there's no excuse. So I gotta say burn in hell. And you know what the funny thing is? If this movie were an actual symbiote, that's the easiest way to kill it. Like, just throw it into a pit of fire, grab a megaphone, and just shout out, "Burn in hell!" And that'll kill this movie right away. And there you go, that's my review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now, I'm going to talk about the stinger. I'm not going to do a separate video on this because there's really not much to talk about. Overall, I did like the stinger, but there's some concerns that I have. So if you haven't seen this movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled by the stinger, just mute the video as soon as this little tag pops up. I'm going to be talking about the stinger when this tag's popping up, and you can just unmute the video when it disappears. But everyone else, if you've seen the movie already, or you don't care about this movie at all, then this is for you. So for those of you who have not seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled, now's your time to mute this video. You can unmute it again when the tag goes away. So the movie ends with Carnage being defeated. Venom eats the actual alien goop that has made Carnage, grabs Cletus Cassidy, and bites his head off. So that's it, right there. An iconic Spider-Man villain just killed like that. So then Eddie Brock and Venom decide to take a trip to a beach. And they're sitting in a hotel room, just thinking about stuff. And then there's a weird bright light and an earthquake. So when all that's done, they end up in a completely different room. It's daytime, and on the TV, they see Alex Jones. I mean, J. Jonah Jameson. And it's J.K. Simmons once again. It's the news report that played at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, where he basically tells the entire world that Spider-Man's identity is Peter Parker. They show a clip of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Venom becomes so fantasized with him and goes, "That guy," and licks the TV. And that's it. So Venom is now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm kind of excited, despite me hating these movies. The fact that the best part of them is now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and out of his own universe is kind of cool. But I'm also concerned who's going to be in charge of this fight when it actually happens, because we know it's coming. Is it going to happen in Spider-Man No Way Home? If it does, that would make me so relieved, because that means Marvel Studios is actually in control of it more than Sony themselves. And if that photo of Tom Hardy wearing a No Way Home cap is actually real, then that makes me a little more optimistic. Because I'll tell you right now, if Sony is in full control of this upcoming fight, and it's as poorly shot and terribly edited as the Riot and Carnage fights, then we are in deep trouble. Like, this fight is going to be awful if you let Sony be in complete control. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, it was a cool stinger when I saw it, and it still is, but I'm also very nervous about what's going to happen. So I'm hoping for the best, but if they screw it up, then it's over, Johnny. It's over! So there you go, those are my thoughts on The Stinger, and thank you again for watching my review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.